Something must have happened to that knife. It couldn't have just disappeared, not from a crime scene locked down like this. I need to find it, but I can't just go looking for it. Is this what it feels like to play with a handicap? Interesting. The thing is, I don't remember what her knife looks like, but I'm fairly sure it wasn't like a tanto. To see a knife wound and go, yeah, that's the same size as a sword. It wasn't that big a knife, was it? I mean, here's a picture if I manage to find one. I'm going to go through the episodes and see if I can find... I think there was some picture of it. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, she also did give away another thing there, that, like, she was questioning the report for no reason, seemingly. But I'm not going to blame her for that one, because she assumed the knife would have been found. Alright, let's look at you then. I'd advise to brace yourself before opening the autopsy photos for this one, Counsellor. Yes, this is sufficiently obfuscated. A lot to take in. The skull was crushed? Yeah, but the cause of death was blood loss from a laceration across the neck. He hit the floor and bled out in seconds. Everything else you're seeing here is post-mortem. Overkill. Not the word I'd use for this kind of shit. Oh, calm down, I didn't do it for the fun of it. In this specific instance. This victim had modded eyes, seemed to me like someone just didn't want to take any chances. Bullshit, no one in the lower wards would get optic mods with recording functionality. You wouldn't be welcome anywhere. You're gonna claim the Hound of Ikaria didn't know something that fundamental? Nah, he bashed his brains in for the fun of it. I'm sure to a law-abiding citizen like yourself, we're all scum of the earth who deserve... I'm pretty scummy myself, Han. Defense attorney, remember? Who the hell deserves shit like this? Deserves? What does that have to do with anything? I take it that this bat is what did the deed? Matches the splinters found inside his wounds, if you had any doubts. There's nothing here about Sasuke's fingerprints. You think we could get anything but partials off of that? It's practically splinters. Makes sense. I was the one who actually swung it down and I was wearing gloves by then. Whoever did this, they were damn enthusiastic. You know how hard they'd have to swing to crush a skull, to break the bat itself? I can't imagine. Broken bat. A cheap wooden bat used to bludgeon Trey's skull. Oh, why did you have to name him? Splinter beyond repair. Like, I feel bad about the Trey one. Of all the murders, like, Tanks, yeah. Arsehole. Creek, sort of I can respect that in a way. Miller had a psycho vibe. But Trey, he was just a kid. Splinter beyond repair, fingerprint analysis proven inconclusive. It was barring Sasuke from exiting the other room before I used it to destroy Trey's eyes, but no one else knows that and I have no way of informing them. What a pain. There's some faint blood that's been smeared here. Did it belong to the victim? And Sasuke. I wonder if maybe the bodies hadn't gotten moved around for some reason, but... Your client's legs and feet were soaked in others' blood when he was arrested. And he would have had to sneak up on Chopin in order to stab him in the back. Ah. Okay. I'm getting a much clearer picture of what happened then. You think he slid his feet across the ground to avoid making noise? Does he say otherwise? I'll let you keep guessing on that one. Okay, so what happened was Chopin came into the scene. He saw the bodies, maybe he even checked that they were dead, wandered over to the desk, for some unknown bloody reason, picked up the data pad, at which point he heard a noise coming from the other room. It would have been like a groaning or something like that, and it was the sound, or maybe even a cutting sound, and it was the sound of Sasuke waking up, cutting his binds, and being about to leave the room. At which point Chopin went over there, opened the door and Rogers or the Shadow Assassin came up behind him and stabbed him with the sword. I now have absolutely no suspicions that Sasuke did it. Before, there was like, I'd say a 5 to 10% chance, more towards 5. Sorry that I'm just sort of pulling percentage numbers. I know it always sounds bullshit when people do that. Cough, cough, L. But it's just a way for me to express how much I think it happened. Alright, let's look at the big one then. Who the hell? Who the hell are you really? Why are you lying there dead right in the middle of my crime scene? That was Tarek Chopin, as you might guess, a patrol officer and the son of 2 loving fathers, who've strongly emphasized to the chief of police their desire to see justice done. Reyes wasn't exaggerating about how he died. Run through from behind with a sword. So he would have been standing in front of the desk, then he was impaled. Then he collapsed to the floor face first and the sword got stuck in the ground. Oh, hang on. Why would Chopin's blood be smeared along the floor? Oh, maybe. No, because that doesn't line up with what we're seeing. Like, this is confusing me. Like, a way that this could go from, like, the police's perspective is that Chopin was looking at the thing on the desk. Sasuke grabbed the sword, came up behind him, straight through. Chopin fell to the floor, and then for the smears to be there, it meant someone had to move from the body to the door after stabbing him, which would mean that Sasuke would then have to sort of back away in shock of, oh, that's a police officer, what did I do? And yet he was found standing over the body. So he walked backwards, smearing across the floor, and then walked forwards again? And he could have been like, oh, what do I do? Oh, I'll go forwards again and have a look closer. But that, you know, that's Occam's razor says that is very unlikely. It seems more likely to me that Chopin was stabbed in the doorway and dragged. Because it can't just be that Sasuke slid his feet to avoid making sound, because there's faint blood. Did it belong to this victim and Sasuke? So not just Sasuke's, and Sasuke's blood and his blood were mixed on this trail. Bad luck for the attacker, I suppose. Yeah, Dr. Sato has noted in a report that the stab wound was, in her words, jostled. Pardon? Like the attacker tried to pull it out, but it was stuck, so they had to jiggle it around? Hey, it's probably what saved Rogers' life. Kept your client distracted and disarmed long enough to give Rogers time to rush in. Allegedly. Not where I left you, that's for sure. And according to Sasuke, the one thing he does recall after I pass the baton to him is gripping his sword. You're not giving me much to work with. Fingerprints on the grip match your client's right hand, by the way. Here I was getting my hopes up. And it definitely wasn't suicide because no one else's prints are on the damn thing. I ruled out suicide once I saw he was stabbed in the back, thank you. Sasuke's sword, bladed weapon found at the scene of the crime impaled into the torso of the victim. Steel is chipped at several points, especially the tip. Fingerprints on the handle match the right hand of Sasuke Ikaria, no other prints. Another murder weapon I had to wipe prints off before I took my leave. It was indulgent, trying to take Trey's head off. Wasn't my only indulgence. I must have gotten Miller's blood on the blade's tip when I dragged it across the floor. Right. That's part of why they thought the sword was used to kill Miller. Because she dragged it across the floor through the blood. But surely that's... I suppose. Blood is blood. Okay, it's a constantly evolving theory as I'm going through the evidence. Maybe I should wait until afterwards, but this is more fun for me. Chopin heard the sound of Sasuke waking up, went to, or groaning or something, went to look, stabbed in the back by Rogers or Shadow Assassin. Rogers would have to be wearing gloves. The Shadow Assassin would definitely be wearing gloves, so no other prints. At this point, Sasuke woke up, stumbles out of the room, in his half-conscious haze, sees what's happening, sees that somebody's been stabbed, goes for the sword out of instinct, can't remove it, gets clocked. And with how quickly this would need to happen, it's more likely that it was Rogers who stabbed Chopin, because it's unlikely that the Shadow Assassin would be able to get out in the time between the stabbing and Rogers coming in to clock him. Then again, I don't think that's the case, because if Sasuke went for the sword as a matter of instinct, I reckon the Shadow Assassin heard Rogers coming and went out the window the way he came in. Yes, okay, so here's my theory. Based on all the evidence we've seen at the scene, Chopin arrived. He began to look around. At this point, the Shadow Assassin was here. The windows were already open. But the Shadow Assassin was maybe behind the desk or in some other place out of sight. Chopin walks in, sees the scene, for some reason goes for the datapad, still not sure why. That seems a really weird thing to do in this situation. It's one of the least important things in the room right now. But we have his prints on it, he picks it up. At this point, he hears Sasuke in the next room, goes over to it, and the Shadow Assassin takes the sword, stabs him through the back. He then either moves Chopin himself, or Chopin staggers and falls forward, impaling the sword into the floor. Sasuke wakes up, comes outside, sees the assassin, goes for the only weapon that he knows in his half-conscious state, grabs the sword, can't move it. Shadow Assassin also doesn't have a weapon on him, but as he's about to do something to Sasuke, hears Rogers coming, bolts out the window. Sasuke is left standing over the body, his prints on the sword. I ruled out suicide once I saw he was stabbed in the back, thank you. There are papers scattered underneath his body. Did I knock them off the desk at some point? Maybe when the tall one hit the ground? I thought she scattered them across the ground when she threw them, but as I recall, it specifically said scattered them across the desk. Or maybe when I was swinging that bat down on... Hang on. What kind of paper is this? I can't read a word. Really? You should get that looked at. My vision's 2020. What am I looking at, Miss Site Manager? Those docs are internal business, ma'am. Nothing to worry your pretty little head over. How do you know they're internal business if we can't read them? You've really never seen red ink before? Never heard of it. It's a corporate information security protocol. Files with special flags trigger specific print commands if you try to make physical copies. Makes it use some kind of special ink. Try to take a photo of it and it comes out a bright blur. Paper's special too. Too much heat, humidity becomes illegible. A corpse bleeding right on top of you is a lot of heat and humidity. So these documents contain confidential information that the Blue Bloods wouldn't want getting out? What do they say in the movies? I can't confirm nor deny that. And if I subpoenaed the data? Do your worst, we've got lawyers too. And unlike your client, they've got all the time in the world to stall. Besides, you and I both know exactly what the Hound's motive was. And it wasn't written on those pages, it's written all over his busted up face. Sure. But you won't mind if I copy down whatever I can anyway, right? I wouldn't have any legal reason to stop you if that's what you're getting at. Red ink. Red ink documents. Documents found at the scene, mostly blotted out by the blood coming from Chopin's corpse. Apparently contained confidential information of high value, but only the occasional page number, graphic, or name can be spotted. Lures required for expansion of eminent domain with proper payments to support of constru re-election Councilman Long to push for colloquially required to as the lower were be vote upcoming. Stress the importance OPSEC of the highest level. There's got to be something important in that. Red ink tech. Information systems security protocol is used, becomes synonymous with anti-dissemination technology in general. First developed in the mid-21st century amid widespread concerns about hackers' newfound capabilities after the third net code leak. Red ink is also commonly used to refer to any kind of printed text material that incorporates anti-piracy measures, such as anti-photocopier gloss sheen, paper that degrades outside of extremely narrow moisture conditions, cipher-encrypted text based on instinct indigenous languages, and sleeper marks, printer machine codes left on the corners of documents that are invisible but are unique to individual printers. Very cool. I love the world building they do. Just stuff like this. Like, I don't think much of this at all is going to be relevant, but it's just so cool the thought and work they put into this world. Okay. Looks like that's everything in here. Well, I don't envy either of your workloads. It's a mess in here. There's a lot of blood, that's for sure. I'm impressed you haven't gotten nauseous, miss. I'll be right at home here if you weren't poking your noses around. Shoot, I just remembered. I'll never hear the end of it if I don't check in with my partner after saying I would. You too good to keep going if I step out to make a call? A call? Is your partner your mum? And is your mum blind? Send a text. And thanks for your understanding. Maybe he was the one with the weak stomach. You be sure to let me know if you're feeling faint. I can keep going. We're nearly finished anyway. I'd stick to the arcs if I were you. Nothing behind that door that's better seen in person. You've been such a gracious host up to this point, Miss Han. Why the cold feet now? It's ugly in there. Uglier than this? Different kind of ugly, then. It's all in the eye of the beholder. I warned you. Don't worry, I can stomach it just fine. So long as I can understand it. Why did Creek's pod torture my client? I don't know that they did. Sasuke told me they electrocuted him, Han. They probably just grounded him. Low-grade currents applied every few minutes stopped most mods from rebooting. So no SOS pings, no adrenaline bursts pulled out of his arse. And the pliers, hammers and syringes, what purpose did they serve? They could have just killed Sasuke when they failed to nab Makoto. Instead they dragged him down here. Why? To try and get information on Makoto's itinerary? Get enough intel to make another run at him? If there are any answers for me in here, I'll need a grout scraper to find them. Buckets. It's water, cold enough that condensation on the outside of the bucket. Is that water for sponge baths? Just a simple way to keep a guest from dozing off. Temperature shock makes caffeine look like a sleep aid. This coming after you claim you don't know if Sasuke was tortured. You know what the other bucket's for, then? I know you said you've got a weak sense of smell, but did you really need a hint here? Ah. But then this last bucket here is... What is that? Trash? Cloth and rope. Bindings. Or bandages. See, they were nursing him back to health. I'll run your theory past Sasuke next chance I get. So this must be what's left of what they were keeping Sasuke tied up with. They would have had to use something. Yeah, this door doesn't even lock. Not after I moved the bat barring it from the outside. So he was brought here, tied up, questioned. Then he breaks out, bursts into the next room, cuts up 2 of his captors and blows the other 2 away. That's what you think happened? That's what it looks like. And then what? Chopin runs in and turns his back on a violent criminal? Don't strain yourself trying to make it sound improbable. Cops are dumb. If the Hound crouched in a corner, he'd have his chance soon enough. Hell, he probably just played dead. Walk into that scene out there, you think some patrol officer would go checking pulses? I mean, there's literally something that I thought he would do. Why would my client go to all that trouble to get the jump on an officer? Why not just run away? Hell, why not ask him for medical treatment? Because he was standing in the middle of the 4 men he just killed? Oh, I know that Sasuke had no logical reason to attack Chopin, but so what? Even Sasuke himself says he would have been acting on instinct. Oh, did he say that? Because I was like, I called that, hey! Would instinct tell him that Chopin was in between him and his escape? I like how she doesn't know if he did it. Blood. Has all this blood been tested, Miss Han? Enough of it has. Besides Sasuke, who else would it belong to? That's a bit lazy, but not as if there's more here than the last time I visited. Sasuke really did lose a lot of blood. By the time he stumbled out of here, a stiff breeze should have been enough to knock him over. Is he really such a badass that he still managed to take out a police officer before he'd even noticed? It's not as if I feel nothing looking at someone else's handiwork, the product of their violence. But it's like an artificial sweetener. No complaints for that first instant. Then the aftertaste comes. Empty calories. I'll just be hungrier again later, faster. Best to stay disciplined. Syringes. Hypodermic needles, probably not packing anything healthy. Sasuke better hope that they were at least sanitized. I'm not sure Sarah can treat an infection with gauze and rubbing alcohol alone. But those needles there... The design of these needles seems a little odd. Well, someone will tell you sooner or later, so... They're projectiles. Load them into a gun and fire away. Sasuke was captured by men wielding needle guns. Does Sayana's security have any peacekeeping tools they'd like to disclose as having recently gone missing? You're cursing up the wrong pipe. Creek could find tools all on his own, and we're not that kind of operation. An operation where the right hand doesn't know what the left is doing? More like the right hand's just been washed, so if you have to handle some garbage. Sayana's is that legitimate? Why aren't all the Blue Bloods working legal jobs then? Not enough positions available. You gotta earn like hell to be considered for a job on this side of the fence. Creek and his pod weren't bringing in that kind of money. They liked Creek's pod where it was. Who's they? Upper management. That mask is a death sentence crafted specifically for one special customer. I'm just the one given the honour of hanging on to it until... And did upper management like Creek? I'm just a humble site manager, miss. I wouldn't know. Sure. So do all these needles contain anesthetics? No, they're also stimulants and barbitocin. Barbitocin, a hypnotic sleep aid drug for active duty military personnel. Promoted as a truth serum. It's never been shown to actually function like that. How to tell if someone is cheating, where to buy lie detector, see who has me muted on social media. Projectile hypodermic needles recovered from the room where Sasuke was being held. The contents within match the non-lethal anesthetics found in Sasuke's bloodstream. Hardy cloth bindings found inside the room where he was held, stiff with dried blood and clearly cut with something sharp. I think that's going to be important, because he clearly didn't use his sword for that. I think that's the only hint, apart from... And I still reckon it would be weird if a knife has the same profile as a katana, unless it is a tanto, which is, if I remember correctly, basically just a really short katana. It's the dagger version of a katana. Like the truth serum? You can get sued for selling it as such. It makes you talk, doesn't make what you say the truth. So they wanted Sasuke talking, but what did they ask him? If your client can't remember or isn't willing to recall, there's really no one alive who would know, yeah? I'm getting a headache, but it's not from anything sensory. I should know more about this crime scene than anyone. Why can't I piece it together? I have. If I can't piece it together, the cops will never trace any of this back to me, right? So why do I feel so ill at ease? Hey, quickly cutting this in post because something occurred to me during editing. I think that's Morgan's Dark Passenger, which is a Dexter reference, and it's like the urge to kill, but it also gives him like insight into other killers. I think that's sort of her twigging that there was some other person active here, hinting to the Huntsman, because I looked up what they were called. They're not the Shadow Assassin, they're called, Creek called them the Huntsman. Also mentioning this, just again, because it occurred to me while I was editing, I reckon Sasuke used the knife against the Huntsman, or the Huntsman took the knife to try and work out who killed the pod, and therefore most likely has the mask. But I reckon either way, the Huntsman has the knife. Okay, thanks for your patience, ladies. Did I miss anything? Nah. Oh. Would you have felt better if you had? I'm gonna head out now, actually. I've got a long day tomorrow. You're going back by yourself, then? Are you sure? I could get you a ride out of the neighbourhood. I'm sure Miss Han here has already made sure that we'll both get out of here without any trouble. That is her company's area of expertise, isn't it? Of course. Well, at least let me walk you out. Sure, why not? Safe travels. I am going to leave it there. My voice is beginning to fail me, as you might be able to tell. Thank you very much for watching. I'll be back with more of The Devil soon, and I will catch you later.